Hey, it's Chuck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. It is showtime. Welcome into Buckeye Huddle Prime Time, where we join you here every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. or 8:03, as it were. I apologize, guys. Tonight, we're getting into some Buckeyes, talking some Ryan Day from his press conference. Penn State, of course. Jim Knowles, Tom and Tony put something out yesterday. I'm going to watch it with you guys, and I'm going to weigh in on my comments, which are slightly different. A little bit of a different view than they have on that. We've got some recruiting news, all that plus your comments. And please, if you want to get at me, put a question mark on your comment or statement, and I'll be able to see it easily. It'll flag it for me. But the Buckeyes gearing up for Penn State, and it was very apparent yesterday at Ryan Day's press conference that he's got a black heart, man. He's got a black heart for Penn State. Of course, Ohio State, the blackout game. And usually when it's a blackout, that means the Buckeyes are playing at night. The fans are wearing black. The team is wearing black. Will they surprise us? They've not announced they'll be wearing black. Some people say and are adamant that they don't even have black uniforms anymore in the building. And it'll be interesting to see if the fans even listen. Remember, we did try this with the helmet stripe game. Everybody was supposed to wear gray. The student section was supposed to execute the helmet stripe, which they did flawlessly. Shout out to the student section. The rest of us, not so much. Not so much. It was not very much gray at all. And it'll be interesting to see if they can pull off the blackout. Will it even look good during the day? I don't know. I personally don't like the look of the blackout, even at night anyway. I just think it's not. I think all scarlet really pops incredibly great. And in the blackout, not so much. But this whole talk about them not having the black uniforms and that Nike doesn't even make them for them anymore, I find to be ridiculous. Like, if Ohio State wants black uniforms, Nike will make them black uniforms. That's something that really just burns me. But honestly, I don't like the black uniforms myself. I do have the black helmet pulled out. I got the black helmet pulled out. It's not my favorite helmet. I got to be honest. Not my favorite helmet. I've seen a lot of alternate Buckeye helmets that I like way more than that. But it's clear to me that when I talk to people about it, like the majority of players and fans of all the alts, like the black is the favorite one. The black is the one that people go crazy over. Personally, I love the scarlet. I like the all white look. The grays I could do without. I don't think many people love the grays, but most people like the blacks. And like, I understand the stance that if you're not going to do alternates, like we're not going to do any, okay, fine. You don't want to do any, don't do any. But if you're going to do them, why not do the ones that everybody likes? Like, look at Thomas here. The blacks are the coldest. Everybody loves the black, not me. But why not do the one the majority of everybody wants, right? Everybody wants the black. Do the black if you're going to do them. I don't get it. My man here hates the all red. See, people go crazy over the all red. A lot of people like the all red. I didn't think I'd like the all scarlets, but they're my favorite. Chris, I love the all scarlet, but I'm with you. I didn't think I'd like it at all. But it almost feels to me at this point like the same thing with the heritage sleeves, right? They know everybody wants the heritage sleeves, and they literally wouldn't roll them out even in the playoffs until the national championship game. And it almost feels like they're enjoying taunting us. They're enjoying taunting us here. We know you like alts. Not going to give you the black, though. We know you want the heritage stripe. Team's got to make it to the national championship. It's pretty wild, man. But Penn State, obviously, this game, nothing like we thought it would be at the beginning of the season. Ryan Day, look, we might have had it circled. He said specifically yesterday that they did not have it circled, but it's one they always point to, of course. And I was curious to see how he was going to talk about this game against this walking corpse of a team. Wayne, no, Wayne is wearing black. The fans are supposed to wear black. The team not announced that they will be wearing black. My hope is they'll surprise us. I seriously doubt that'll happen. But Ryan Day talked about this game and he brought up matchup game. And when he brings up matchup game, a lot of people get scared because he tends to coach a little different in games that he calls a matchup game. But I think that's the old Ryan Day. I think that's over. I think he proved that in the playoffs. And there's only one game that he coaches different, and hopefully he shows us differently this year. Geez, the next month, it's coming up real soon here. Now, it's technically true that this is kind of a talent equated game, right? Which is his definition of a matchup game. They're close to talent equated. They got a lot of talent, but they're also a 3-touchdown underdog, which makes this a really awkward matchup. Their fans don't even think they have a shot. Do their players? I wonder that. I was literally on a Penn State show today, guys, 30 minutes long. The game this Saturday, not one of the questions. I didn't get a single question about the game. Not one. It was all about Brian Hartline, the whole thing. And I get it. They're totally checked out on the season. Like, the fans don't even care. It's a total wash. I wonder how the team's feeling. Because from my perspective, if I'm a senior and I came back, and we know that they kind of gave up on the season, but this is their one shot. This is all they've got. Are they capable of doing anything with Ethan Grunkmeyer? That's the thing. Even if everybody else on the team is all bought in and they're playing giving their all, like, are they capable with that offense? I don't really think so. The schedule's worked out to be a lot different than we originally thought when looking at it at the beginning of the year. It's worked out in a way that I don't think is really helpful for the team. Ohio State kind of been eviscerated nationally for this schedule, which is always just, it makes me so angry, to be honest. Like, we came in the year, in all the metrics that rank schedules, had Ohio State ranked about 30th out of the 136 teams. And that's not great, but it's not bad. It's like right in the middle of the Power Four. Many SEC fans have said that they're jealous of this schedule. They keep bringing that up. I really think that Ryan Day would rather have a really tough opponent right about now in this spot. Like, I think he was looking forward to where Penn State was scheduled here, because it's kind of like 2/3 of the way between the season, or halfway if we're counting like the whole run, if you make it all the way. And I just think it's advantageous to play a really tough opponent right now before you rolled into kind of cream puff alley with Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers before the game. But now it looks like Penn State could potentially be part of cream puff alley, which means Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, 5 lowly opponents, 5 games that you walk in as a massive favorite before the game. And it doesn't really give you a chance to test yourself. And we look at Oregon last year. You go out at Oregon, you play that game, and it shows you what you got to work on. You're not getting that test until you get to Michigan now. And as it turns out, we're going to look at this season, and it's going to be like, okay, game 1 and game 12 were the 2 toughest games. I think that's how it's going to look at the end. So you're not getting that midseason super hard test. Illinois was kind of tough. Washington was kind of tough. I don't think any of you or anybody on the team actually thought that there was a real chance they were going to lose those games. I'm curious to see what that game plan will be. It feels like outside of Texas, every game this year, the game plan has been not with just today in mind. It's been about, we're building for the future. Like, Texas was all about that game. We got to win this game today. Nothing else matters. Every other game, it's been, we're working on a specific piece of the offense, or we're working on this personnel grouping. We're trying to find we're limiting plays. We're trying to find a balance of limiting plays and getting as much experience as we can for the young guys. How do you treat this one? Is Ryan Day going to treat this like Texas, like it's all about today? Or is it going to be played with, we're going to be working on something? That'll probably come up on our 10 questions video. But unfortunately, Ohio State, through no fault of their own, at the end of the year, this schedule's not going to look good. And luckily, that doesn't really matter anymore. It doesn't really matter. It never mattered when you ran the table. But even if you lose one game, it doesn't really much matter. You got to lose 3 games for that to matter. So the resume test, not a big deal. But as it stands, like, number 23, Illinois, They got a good chance of running the table and finishing 9-3, so they may finish ranked. If Ohio State beats Michigan, Michigan will be 9-3. They'll probably finish ranked, and Texas probably will not. Texas will probably finish 8-4. Washington, they've still got to play Oregon, so not so sure about that, and the polls haven't really loved them. The season might end with Ohio State having just beaten 2 teams ranked in the 20s, which is odd. Not the Buckeyes' fault. They scheduled a behemoth opponent to start the season and get to have them again at the beginning of next year, which is a game I think I'm going to try to go down to. I think I'm going to go down, take that trip to Austin. But coming into the season, Texas, Penn State, Illinois, they were all top 10. Like, it looked really great coming in. And I don't know if you guys caught this, but T-Bob Hebert, former LSU center, was on their Barstool, whatever stupid show that I don't watch, but I saw the clip, and he was saying how it must just suck to be an Ohio State fan. And like, I understood his point, and his point is you don't get to watch many competitive games. And I get what he's saying. A lot of people took this to be like, what are you, a moron? You win all the time at Ohio State. It's great. It's awesome. And it is. But it is awesome to see games that get your juices flowing, games that, like, there's a reason we look forward to that Oregon game all off season, because it was scary, right? Because we thought there was a chance we could lose, and we did end up losing. But those are the games that we look forward to the most, the games that put that fear of potentially losing. And buddy, we got it. We got it. Hey, Lisa, how you doing? We got it next year. If you haven't seen next year's schedule, I like to pull this up to show everybody, just to let everybody know what we got coming. We got Texas at Texas. We are at Indiana. We are at Iowa. We are at Nebraska. We've got Illinois. We've got Maryland, and they're on the come up. We've got Michigan, Northwestern, and Oregon. Underneath Oregon, you can't see this. Let me pull my banner down here, my picture. USC. Is this crazy or what? USC, Oregon, Michigan, and Nebraska. 4 in Texas. 5 blue bloods. And then you add on to that Illinois, upper echelon of that middle tier of the Big Ten, and Iowa. Like, this is an absolute banger. We're going to be getting up like every week for a game. It's going to be amazing. So, to his point, talking about, it must suck to be an Ohio State fan, like, that's what he meant. Next year's going to be a total different scenario. And the Buckeyes are going to have to bring it every day. But the thing is, they bring it the most when it's a game like that, which I love. And we talk about this year, like, limiting the plays and stuff for the duration of the season. I mean, that's a season where it would be like, okay, we're talking body blow game after body blow game after body blow game. It might even be slower next year, to be honest, which is just amazing. We look at this year at 62 plays per game right now versus 2018 at 82 plays a game. And like, the difference is just insane. But fighting the battle of public perception are the Buckeyes. You don't need to anymore. But a lot of people want to put Indiana or Texas A&M number 1. And this stuff always irritates me, man. I don't know why I let it bother me, but the public discourse irritates me because I feel like Ohio State's always the target of they're not as good as everybody, or, it's always trying to downplay Ohio State. People right now talking about what has Ohio State done that Texas A&M and Indiana haven't. They got better wins, etc. What have they done to deserve or merit the number 1 ranking? And like, that's not how rankings work. It's not a resume contest. It's not an award. It's a collection of people deciding who they think are the best teams and ranking them in order. They don't got to show their criteria. They don't have to show their work. They don't have to explain their logic. Is the benefit of the doubt in most cases going to go to the most historically dominant program in the country? Yeah, most of the time the benefit of the doubt is going to go to them. That's why they probably have such an overwhelming amount of those number 1 votes. Out of 66, I think they got like 50 plus. And yeah, Indiana's really good. I think Texas A&M's really good too. But if you're watching these 3 teams, and I've said this before, like, I don't care who Ohio State's played. All 3 of these teams, we could watch them play against Division III teams, and you could spot who the different team is. And the different team is Ohio State. They move different athletically. They're just a different team. And that's why the folks with the big money on the line don't have Texas A&M or Indiana at plus 250 to cover their butts. They're at like plus 700. But I do believe it is advantageous to be tested a little more throughout the year. This particular team, they're so prepared every week. It's not something that I'm worried about or concerned about, but there have been some teams where I'm like, yeah, they could have used some more tests during the year who maybe didn't perform as well in the postseason that I think could have benefited over the years from having some stiffer competition in the Big Ten. So anyway, that's what it is, and it sucks, but next year's schedule, the exact opposite, which I'm really excited for. But this Saturday, probably not going to be a battle test. There will be some gnarly position battles, right? Like we're going to get to be able to get a real test for the offensive line. There's no doubt about that. The offensive line comes off a rough game at Wisconsin, and playing against Penn State, they're going to get an absolutely huge test. So while the game total, the total game, 20.5 point line, probably not going to be a test. It'll be a heck of a test for the offensive line. Ryan Day was asked yesterday about Josh Padilla and Tegra in that battle. I mean, we talked about this on Monday. Who would start at right guard? Well, Ryan Day last year going to Penn State was the first game that Donovan Jackson got moved out to tackle, which required bringing in another guard. And he decided to go with Carson Hinsman, which was a surprise to most of us. Carson wasn't the next guy up at any point that year, in that year up to that point, but he went with Carson because of experience. And because of that, I thought, whether or not Padilla ends up earning those starts or not, probably not going to be against Penn State. And it's not going to be. He's going to stick with Tegra to start, but he praised Padilla up and down. Now, Padilla hasn't been perfect. I do think Padilla's floor is about what we're getting out of Tegra, which means Tegra's had an opportunity to get better for 24 starts now at Ohio State, 24. And it's time to turn the page. Now, Padilla's a little undersized. There are some plays in that last game where you could say, okay, he got a little manhandled on this play. But there's also some plays that he doesn't make as many mental errors as Tegra right off the rip already, which is amazing because he's literally a center playing guard. So that's a big plus. He's a leverage monster, and it helps him in his run blocking. When he gets up in under their shoulder pads, he can drive him pretty good, which I really like. So he played 26 snaps out of the 65 offensive snaps, which was his high on the year last game at Wisconsin. Curious to see how many he's going to play at Penn State. But I'm also hoping Tegra just does a great job too, because if he can continue to improve, that would be the best thing, continue to improve. I just think he is what he is at this point. But the offensive line, going to get a big test. The defensive line as well, going to get a huge test against Penn State. They got a great offensive line. They got a great offensive line coach. So we're really going to get to see, all right, how's Edric looking now? He comes back from his injury, has a good game, and then last game against Wisconsin, he has some moments that don't look so hot. People still pointing to, I think he's still injured. I just don't think he is. I don't think he is. I think that this is right now who he is. He's a very inconsistent player, and that sucks. It's not what we thought coming into the year. But this whole thing about the injury, he was injured before Grambling in Ohio, but he played against Grambling in Ohio. And I don't think that the coaches are playing him if he's at all injured against Grambling or Ohio. It's totally unnecessary. And I feel like that's kind of like the Garrett Nussmeier excuse this year. He's injured. And it just doesn't, I don't think he's injured. I really don't. And I don't think Edric's injured either. So I think this is who he is right now, but he needs more reps. He needs to play a lot, and he needs to continue to improve. Time alone has improved literally every single game this year. It's been awesome to see. It is definitely an area of need, and he's really stepped up to the plate. The fifth-year guy, which is awesome to see. He's got the size. He's physical. He's also made a few mental errors here and there, but every game it gets better. And it feels like the more comfortable he gets, the more confident he gets, and the better he plays. So that's been great to see. But I'm really looking forward to seeing him and Big Willie style. Will Smith Jr., number 53, is out there just beating dudes to death. He is so awesome, and I never would have seen it coming. There was hype about him in the offseason, and it was purely speculative based on what people were hearing around the Woody. I wasn't buying it. It's not because I didn't believe in him as a prospect. I did coming out of high school. I thought he was a little undervalued. And then towards the end of the cycle, he got a big ratings bump up to like a top 150 player in the country. And I was like, there we go. Because he had quick feet. He was strong. And I was really excited for him. Then he got to Ohio State and it wasn't looking good the first couple of years. And he's even said now, like he didn't feel, like he was quite measuring up. But then this offseason, they start talking. As a matter of fact, Padilla started talking about him. And that's when I started to believe it. When Padilla started to talk about him, he's like, it is so tough to go from blocking Caden McDonald to blocking Will Smith because they're so different. And Will is just so slippery. And sure enough, man, Will has been so slippery, but also strong. I mean, there's some times where, like Padilla, because he's a little undersized for a nose guard, he can get knocked out of the way quite a bit. But that happens to Edric all the time, playing the 3-tech. But Will Smith, the majority of the time, will get under you, leverage you, and push you out of the way, clog his spot, not get blown off on a double team. He has done fantastic. I think he's been the second best interior defensive lineman this year so far, and that is just tremendous. So looking forward to watching that defensive line and that offensive line. When we talk about what Penn State can bring here, not much, I don't think, offensively with Ethan Grunkmeyer, who is a kid from Olentangy, who I've always rooted for, just like I always rooted for Drew Aller, like just the player specifically. Drew Aller from Northeast Ohio. I watched him a couple of times in high school and just kind of rooted for him. Another guy who, towards the end of the cycle, he spiked. He was the number one quarterback in the class when it closed. And my buddy Landon Tangwell, who is a Penn State guy, did a video and he showed Drew Aller's first game and he broke it down. And he said that the first game he played at Penn State was the best game he ever played. Like Penn State just kind of ruined him slowly. Now, that makes me feel better, so I'm going to go ahead and go with that. But I'm really sad for how that guy's career ended, right? Like, the dude is like, doesn't even get to play a final game and get celebrated by the fans. Like, he's just done. He's gone. And if he'd have entered the draft last year, they would have had Bo Prabula this year. Aller would have got drafted top 3. As it stands now, what happens with his career, who knows? But Ethan Grunkmeyer ended up, I think, a top 7 or 8 quarterback in the class when it ended, out of Olentangy. Grew up a Buckeye fan, always wanted to play in the shoe, and he gets his opportunity, and probably not going to be great for him this Saturday. Second year in the program, got a great quarterback coach, Drew Aller's quarterback coach, Brad Mandler, the best quarterback coach in the Midwest. No jokes because of Aller's stuff. Look, Aller throwing the ball, he's got a beautiful arm. It's a beautiful arm. He just doesn't do it when it counts or enough. But Ethan Grunkmeyer's got some serious tools. He absolutely does. But I was listening to Tom and Tony the other day, and my guys, man, BuckeyeHuddle.com, Tom, Tony, I love those guys. I've been watching them for years. I love working with them. They've been fantastic to work with. And you can join us over at BuckeyeHuddle.com anytime. We're talking on the board all day. They're fantastic guys. But they did a video that I call taking one for the team. They did it for us. They forced themselves to watch Ethan Grunkmeyer's first start, Penn State at Iowa. And that is dedication to the craft. Now, I didn't watch the game. I listened to them describe the game, and their description was so boring, not any fault of their own. The game itself, the description was so boring, I couldn't imagine watching it. They both watched the whole thing. Ethan Grunkmeyer averaged 3 yards of completion, which Tom astutely pointed out. He could complete a pass on first, second, and third down, and they still wouldn't have a first down. But the Penn State offense, they couldn't do anything against Iowa. Nothing at all. Is that offense going to be able to do anything against Ohio State? I mean, I think it's clear the answer is no, unless there are maybe a couple of fluky series here or there. Maybe they can put 10 points on the board with some serious flukes, or if Ohio State is able to run in the full second team at the end of the game, and you got pissed off Ryan Day running the starters back out because they're moving the ball. I just don't see any way they're going to be able to move the ball. And if they can't move the ball, obviously they can't score 30, and it's going to take 30 to beat these Buckeyes. So as far as the game goes, it's kind of hard to get really excited other than we're looking for personal development out of certain players, right? Like that's what I'm looking for. Now, one of the reasons that Ryan Day is treating this like a matchup game, he explained this yesterday. You only get 12 games, and he preaches this to the guys and the staff all the time. You're guaranteed 12 games, and it goes by fast. And boy, we know it goes by fast. I can't believe we're already halfway through basically all of it. If Ohio State gets to the national championship, we are halfway through. It feels like it just started. But at the same time, when I think about the Texas game, it does feel like it was a long time ago. It's football. It just goes by so fast, man. Every year it goes by so fast. And if you're someone who is only getting 12 snaps a game, right? Like that's a serious contributor on the team. And you're only guaranteed 12 games. Like that is not a lot of opportunities. And this is how, one of the ways he gets these guys up for it every week. This is an unbelievable skill that he has to keep them focused every single game, even when they're on a stretch like this, which we just talked about. Look, Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, a 5-game stretch where you're going to be a 20-point favorite plus every single game. We've seen Ohio State teams in the past screw around and lose one of these games. And Ryan Day has been so fantastic with these kind of games. And that's why his record is what it is. That overall record is stellar, not just because he wins the big ones, which he didn't always have a great record in the big ones, but because he always does what he's supposed to do. And you're supposed to win these games. He always does. Now, Tony told me yesterday at the press conference, that was the least he's ever heard on a Penn State week, talk of Penn State. There wasn't much talk of Penn State yesterday. A funny story about Ryan Day and the maze, the corn maze. He went to a corn maze with the family. The corn maze was his face. And he's sitting here talking about, it was just a day trying to get out and be normal. And I'm thinking like, dude, this guy's normal is going to a corn maze and it's literally his face. That's something. That is something. I talked about going in the haunted house and a guy scaring him with a mask. And the guy was like, Coach Day. So I was like, yeah, man, it's a different life, man. The guy is, he's incredibly famous, right? Incredibly famous, trying to live a normal life as a football coach. It'd be a really strange living. But that press conference was a lot about coaching and coaching changes, some about Jim Knowles, some more about potentially losing a coach on the staff. And that obviously was related to all the Brian Hartline talk going around. Nobody specifically said anything about Hartline, but there were questions like, do coaches tell you when they're talking to somebody? Do you worry about getting your coordinators back yearly? Actually, here's a clip of Tony asking his question yesterday to Ryan Day.
Being thrown around there, how does that impact you and day-to-day game planning with coaches? How do you keep it from impacting that? And can you anymore expect to return your coordinators year after year?
I hope so. That's the goal. But you don't know. You don't know what's coming next. It makes you wake up a couple minutes earlier every day and stay up a little later. That's just the reality of it. But this is the world we live in, and there's nothing better. It's the most competitive environment there is in the entire world, and get your blood flowing every day. And it's great to be around these guys. And we say it all the time, like it's a privilege to be a part of this, man. You're relevant. You're in the middle of it all. Let's go. And I want to make sure our players, our coaches, everybody doesn't look back in 10 years, 20 years and say, man, like those are the best times in our lives. And we were worried about X, Y, and Z. No. Just go out there and play, man. Be the most prepared team in the country and go enjoy it. And enjoying is winning, So I think we have the ability right now to focus on, the task at hand. And that right now is Penn State. It's all about the Nittany Lions. And these games against Penn State have always been a battle. It was a battle last year, and it's going to be a battle this year. So, but we knew that when we saw the schedule. Like, okay, we're not going to circle opponents on our schedule, but we know that one's going to be a battle. And it's a matchup game that we're going to have to bring it at home. So we also need the fans. I think our fans have been great this year, but we got to be we got to be at our best. They got to be at their best. Make it as hard as possible and make it a really difficult environment for them to operate in.
We're going to be at our best, coach. Going to be at our best. I doubt that we can expect most to be in black. I don't know. Just based on that gray, I'm not thinking it's going to be great. But the truth is, we can expect now, moving from here on out, Ryan Day's coaches continually trying to get poached. That is just the reality of life now, that his organization is going to be living in. This guy has the number one team in the country after rolling over the roster after winning a national championship. And just like we saw half of the SEC through Saban's career hire away somebody from Alabama's staff to try to bring in some piece of the Alabama program. What are they doing? How are they doing it? What's so special about it? And we saw garbage coaches, Jeremy Pruitt, get hired away as head coaches from Alabama just to try to get a slice of that. We're going to start seeing it from guys off of Ryan Day's staff. And it is obviously more important now than it ever was back then to try to get somebody off of a staff that really knows what they're doing, because this era is so much more confusing to navigate than it was during Saban's era. There was no huge secrets to Saban's success. Hard work, discipline, recruit your butt off, have the best players. There you go. Now, Ohio State, the culture that they've built, how they're spending their money, which, how they're retaining their players, so many good players and still able to bring in so many good players. And Ryan Day knows this is coming. He's already prepared for it. He's been getting prepared for it. He has talked literally for a year about studying Nick Saban and being ready for these types of things. And Tuesday, he brought up Nick Saban again.
Coach Saban was really good at it, in my opinion. All of those great runs that he made each year, he would have guys picked off of his staff, and then he was very thorough about how he hired the next one. And I'm sure he would say, some were better than others, but making sure that in that moment we're not rushing in to make a decision. And I think you saw that with Matt. There was a lag time between when Jim left and when we hired Matt, where I think a lot of people were like, man, he's going to hire one here pretty soon, but it left us in a tough spot because the hiring cycle was already sort of done. And so it was so late, but the fact that Matt was available, man, it ended up being a home run. And so just being thorough and making sure we're doing what's right by the players. I think getting some of their feedback is important. Talking to Caleb, talking to Sonny, what do you guys think about this? And then the last part, which is probably the most important part, is getting the feedback of the assistant coaches, because, Tim, James, Larry, Matt, they have to work with whoever this guy is who comes in. And that's probably the part that maybe isn't getting recognized enough, because Jim did a great job last year. Matt's doing a great job this year. But what's the common denominator? Those coaches and the players. So I think we have the best defensive coaching staff in America.
I concur. Man, I love this defensive staff. But he talked about this is part of their unselfish motto. Part of the culture, man. Unselfish. When you win together, it creates opportunity for everybody in their careers. And he knows that, and he understands that, and tries to make it as enticing as he can for everybody to stay as long as he can keep them. Now, nobody asked directly about Brian Hartline. Of course, everybody knows about the rumors with Penn State, and currently he is tops on the betting odds for whatever book does such kind of strange odds for betting to get that Penn State job. Matt Rule up there as well. And Matt Rule, really good friends with the athletic director, Pat Kraft. But I mean, if I'm looking at this from the Penn State perspective, if I'm a Penn State fan, there is nothing Matt Rule has been good at taking a bad program and making them good. We've never seen him make a good program great. And there's nothing about him that would excite me. And I can say as an Ohio State fan, if they hired Matt Rule, I would feel zero anything about it other than Penn State's going to be Penn State, James Franklin 2.0. There are only a couple of coaches that they could hire that would make me think, and one of them would be Brian Hartline. That's my opinion on it. But I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because it's just such a boom or bust. And if you're the athletic director in that situation, like if it doesn't work out, you're fired. If it doesn't work out, you're an idiot. And how could you do that? But at the same time, what if, obviously it's too early, right? It's too early. It's not ideal for Brian Hartline. But what if, and people talk about the lack of calling plays, like I don't care about any of that. I'm not bringing him in to call plays. What do we do when a coach is calling plays? We tell him to stop calling plays. We all yell at the head coach that calls plays. Stop calling plays. Get a coordinator. But then at the same time, when we're hiring, well, this guy hasn't called plays enough. It makes no sense to me. You're hiring the man. It's about the man. And we look at the best hires around the country recently, Dan Lanning, Marcus Freeman. Like you're trying to tell me Brian Hartline doesn't match up to Dan Lanning as a man? Like they're literally almost the same guy. I think it'd be an absolute slam dunk. And I think what's going to happen is they're not going to hire him. Somebody else is going to hire him in 2 years, and he's going to be that program's Dan Lanning, and Penn State's going to be kicking themselves forever. That's what I think is going to happen. But it's just too boom or bust. But it hasn't stopped the Penn State fans from being incredibly excited about not just Hartline, but maybe a little bit more.
Your Hartline, okay, what can you bring? What's your relationship with Jim Knowles? Is that even someone you want to keep? Can you poach some more of the Ohio State staff? As much as you're just a first-time coordinator leaving, can you grab a guy like Tyler Bowen, who has been at Penn State? Can you bring him on with some capacity? Can you bring on Billy Fessler, Ohio State's quarterback coach, who is a hot name right now in the coaching world? Fessler played quarterback here at Penn State, obviously never started, but he was here mid to late 2010s, so has that connection there. Can you nab some of those guys and bring them with you?
Now, no, you can't do that, Landon. That's my buddy Landon, former Penn State lineman. And, he and a lot of the Penn Staters are all in on the Hartline train. I was talking to Landon, and he asked me that question today when I was on with him. Like, if they were to hire Hartline, do I think Bowen or Fessler would leave? Now, my thought on this was, and obviously they do both have Penn State connections. Fessler went there. Bowen started his career there. And I don't think they would. And the reason I don't think so is because they're both technically first-year head coaches. And I don't know this for sure because Ryan Day has never stated it. But if you remember, when Urban Meyer would hire a coach, give me 2 years. I know you're going to get hired away. He knew they were going to get hired away, and he would say, give me 2 years. If after 2 years you want to leave, go ahead and leave. But I can't turn over my coaching staff every single year. So if you want this opportunity, I need 2 years. And I don't know for sure if Ryan Day has done that, but I would imagine that he is coming at these guys, these new hires, with the same attitude. And that's why I don't think either of them would consider leaving if that were the case. There are some recruits who would leave. There's no doubt about that. That'd happen, but whatever. Thing about that is that job, if Brian Hartline were to leave, this is wide receiver U now, and it would attract the best wide receiver candidate in the country. And that just keeps on rolling. In many ways, thanks to him. So, do have a super chat I want to answer before we move any further. Alex M asks, thank you, Alex. Appreciate you, buddy. Why does your schedule for 2020 not show T-Ton last? It's not in order. They're just jumbled up. The times aren't in order. I do always like to use that website when I get schedules, and I forget the name of it, or I'd share it with you, because it has the helmet picture is real big, and it's just better for showing up for the show. But Jim Knowles, of course, came up, and Ryan Day was asked about their current relationship or Ohio State's relationship with Jim Knowles, which he basically said, there's not a relationship. He did good when he was here, and now he's gone, and that's that. Also talked, as you heard in that other clip, about how abrupt it was, made sure to add that, and that he put him in a pretty tough spot trying to find somebody else because the hiring cycle was just about done. Now, my buddies Tom and Tony, yesterday on their show, they threw up a question. Now, Tony retweeted this, put a little clip on Twitter. I'm going to play it for you now. And Tony's question, the header to this was, should Ohio State pay homage to Jim Knowles? Here's what they had to say.
Understand that this will not happen. And I understand that this will not happen. Jim Knowles should get a warm welcome in Columbus on Saturday. Like, Jim Knowles did a great job for Ohio State for 3 years. He turned what was an absolute flaming tire fire of a defense under Kerry Combs into a better defense, and then a better defense, and then an outstanding defense. And that was sort of what was promised based on his track record, and that was what was delivered, and it ended with them hoisting a championship trophy and confetti falling, and everyone lived happily ever after. And then, like, 5 days later, everyone was mad at each other. And that's...
Yes. Here's the thing. Jim Knowles, in terms of people being angry about him, Ohio State won a national championship. They have a really good defensive coordinator. There's no longer exists.
Right. Yeah.
There's no longer any reason to hold any, harbor any ill will. It does you no good, does him no good. He doesn't care. And it's just energy that you don't need to use, because things are pretty good as they are. So why be angry about something that's not going well at Penn State? Are you angry that he's doing so poorly at Penn State? Like, that's another thing you should be happy about. There's only good news for you here.
Now, it probably won't surprise you that I disagree with my friends on this vehemently. I'm curious to know how most feel. Allow me to explain how I feel and why I feel the way I feel about Jim Knowles, and why I've been waiting for this game all year, not just because it's Ohio State, Penn State, but because of Jim Knowles. And I want to start by, so Knowles' departure, this guy writes today in this article, Knowles' departure made him a pariah in Columbus, not just because he left Ohio State, but because he chose to leave for one of the Buckeyes' top Big Ten competitors. And a couple of things. Like, I believe there's a certain way that fans of a program should act, like with a certain level of respect to other human beings that I did not see towards the end of James Franklin's tenure, when he was walking off the field in the tunnel, and it looked like they were so mad and angry at him, they wanted to throw rocks at him. Like, at that point, you've just lost human decency. And I don't feel that way towards Jim Knowles. But I do believe that Jim Knowles did some things that showed me what kind of guy he is, and that kind of guy is not the kind of guy I like. And I do believe, as an Ohio State fan, it's my duty to dislike Jim Knowles. That's what I believe. The hate is a feature of college football, not a bug. The hate's the best part. We literally spend all year hating a single program every day. We do it because we love it, not because we have to. We don't have to hate those people. We don't have to hate their uniform. We don't have to hate their state. We don't have to call them weird names. We do it because we love it. It's the best part. I don't need all this maturity in my sports fandom. Maturity is for the real world. This is my sports fandom. But let's talk about the real world for a second and what this guy did, man. This dude, in the midst of a national championship run, he was shopping his services to try to get himself a better offer to come back to his employer and strong arm them for a better offer, for a better deal, for a better contract, for more money, when he literally just signed an extension for more money, making him the second highest paid coordinator in the country, that he was very happy to sign a year prior. Sooner Scoop was running with this story, and they were running with this story that Jim Knowles had a fiance in Oklahoma. And because of that, he was trying to get the Sooners coordinator job. Now, this sounded ridiculous to me, so I traced this all the way back. I was kind of proud of myself. It was the first time I did like investigative journalism, and I went down rabbit holes, and I found the origin of this story they were running with. And this rumor all started on a Rivals Oklahoma board by some anonymous poster. Like, verbatim, they had quoted this from this anonymous poster. So I did this entire show calling out this website, Sooner Scoop, for pumping this story without any source, just based on rumor, and it turns out being from this anonymous Rivals board. How ridiculous are these morons going to look? Well, Jim Knowles just made me look ridiculous, coming out and saying that entire story was 100% true, while he was getting ready for a national championship at Ohio State. And I don't appreciate that one bit. Here I thought I was defending Jim Knowles' honor, because of course you would have to be a very dishonorable guy to do something like that. At least that's the way I live. I have codes I live by. That would be a total scumbag move, trying to backdoor your way into picking up offers on the sly when you're employed somewhere, that's just trying to prepare for a national championship. That's not the way I live. That's not the way I get down. And then the Penn State rumors started. And then it became clear. And then we started to hear more and more and more. It was Jim Knowles who reached out to Penn State too. Now, there is a counterpoint to this, and the counterpoint is, Chuck, these guys' careers are short. When they finally make it, they got to leverage themselves and get as much money as they can. And these are state institutions, and who cares? It's not your money. And I get all that. But I would counter, when you are in a group of 11 coaches and you have put all that work in together, were any other one of those 11 coaches trying to leverage their way and be divisive in the unit during the national championship run into getting themselves more money? No, none of them were. It was just him. And if you either don't know that that's a divisive move, then you're just ignorant. Or if you don't care, then you're just a jackass. One way or the other, I can't stand this guy, man. Not the way I get down, not the way I roll. Then on top of it, he left to Penn State. Then on top of that, he had his girlfriend or his sister leaking stories and doing a sit-down interview with CBS saying that the head coach was breathing down his neck and he couldn't work in these circumstances. Like, this guy threw down the gauntlet, man. He threw down the gauntlet. So no, it's probably true. He doesn't care that we hate him. But like I said, the hate is a feature. He did everything in his power to deserve it, and he's going to get it from me. Urban Meyer is ringing that bell on Saturday, and it just feels fitting. It feels fitting. Hate will be in the air, and I love it. Absolutely love it. 100% within his rights to do what he did. 100% within my rights to not be able to stand him. There we go. Emily likes Hallmark Christmas movies more than us, Chuck. So that's my spiel on the Knowles thing. And this guy's going to get waxed. I stand down. Tony says he stands down. I hope that means I've swayed him. Either that or I'm fired. Tony's the boss. No, that's the thing, right? Like, Tom and Tony will always give you a rational, measured approach. And honestly, they've calmed me down, talked me off the bridge on a lot of things over the years before I even knew them. There's no doubt. I'm very reactionary. They're very measured and calm. But I've put a lot of thought into this one. A lot of thought. And the thing is, like, yeah, Jim's coming in weak. He's got no job soon, most likely. And his team sucks. It's all falling apart, and we can point and laugh, and that's great. But his intent was to come in at 7-0 and ruin our season. That was his intent, and it's the intent that counts. You know, if somebody tries to punch me in the face and they miss and fall down and hurt their knee, I'm not pointing and laughing at him. Like, I'm pretty angry. You know what I mean? So there we go. Jim looks pathetic. I love it. I'll be streaming the game live over at Chuck on Bucks. Post-game show right here with me and Mark on the Buckeye Huddle channel. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow you can check me out on Landon Tangwall's show, on the Landon Tangwall show, where Landon and I talk about the Hartline thing. Now, Big Noon kickoff, we got another Big Nooner. And we have talked about Big Noon for a while. And, you know, one of the things that always comes up is not that it's just annoying that we consistently get stuck carrying this time slot for Fox. We've also discussed the issues it creates in recruiting. And every time I've talked about that on my channel, I get several comments from people who enjoy noon games. And I understand there's a lot of people that like noon games. The older I get, the more I like them personally as well. And that's just, you know, I go to bed earlier. But that's just a me thing. But they say that the recruiting thing is a fake issue. That's not a real deal. Nobody actually cares. It doesn't really mean anything. People just say it because they want more night games. Well, I'd like to read to you a quote today from one gentleman named Mark Pantoni, who says, home games are a plus when Fox doesn't handcuff us with these noon games. And we got another one next week. Next weekend, we'll have a lot of kids coming in, a lot of 27s and 28s to start building that relationship. And a lot of these recruits driving in, but you also got guys from Texas, Florida, California hopping on red eyes to get to the game. And they're not landing till 11:30, 11:45, calling us and saying, hey, traffic is really bad. What can I do? You deal with a lot of crisis management on game day right before kickoff, trying to make sure it's as efficient and smooth as possible. So that's Pantone. Obviously, if he's the one saying that, then we know, in fact, it is an issue. And when we talk about this weekend, it's a huge visit weekend, right? This is a big time game for visits. 4-star Gavin Williams going to Tennessee instead of Ohio State. The Volunteers hosting Oklahoma at night. Williams, who came to Ohio State for Texas, was going to come back, but the red-eye flight really wiped him out for the next day the first time around, and he said the travel's really rough, so he's going to Tennessee instead. By the way, the night environment at Neyland or at Georgia or Bama or Kyle Field, when they go and see one of those games and they have all they have to compare is that night game there to a day game at Ohio Stadium, they feel like, well, I get it why everyone says the SEC is better. Like that's what they think, because they don't know that, the shoe at night is just like that. But we never have that to showcase. Even when we do, it's against a team like Ohio. So it's not a big magnified. Imagine if the Texas game was a night game. Like, my gosh. Modern day 4-star Aaron Washington is going to Nebraska's night game instead of coming to Columbus this week. Teammate Danny Lang at Modern Day, he's a kid I think the Buckeyes are going to get anyway, but he couldn't get a flight to come out on time to come to the game, so he'll come later on in the season. 5-star Cooper Witten, Jason Witten's son, the number 1 linebacker in the country, could not make it because of the noon kickoff. Xavier Hassan from North Carolina, he plays Thursday, so he's driving up to Columbus, but he says these games are a pain for him. And if he's staying local, because a lot of the coaches like to have filmed sessions Saturday morning, and if it's a night game, they can get out to those night games, but the noon games are really tricky. So a ton of issues that the noon games create, not just garbage talk from those of us I'm not even someone who loves night games. I just think night games are beneficial to the program. I also think that there are certain magnitude of games that just feel bigger and deserve the spotlight of the evening. That's just, maybe that's not really the way it goes, but it just feels to me like the bigger the game, it should be at night. Like we don't play national championship games during the day. You know what I mean? We don't play playoff games during the day. Big games belong at night. And I hope there's some concessions to be made next year. We look at the home slate next year. You've got Michigan, Oregon, and Illinois in order of the 3 biggest home games next year. Fox was willing to make a concession this year, right? At least they were willing to pretend to make a concession with the Texas game. They were willing to move to Sunday to try to accommodate Ohio State. However, I think that they knew right off the rip that Texas would never go for that, and they could really score some points and make themselves look good by saying, hey, we tried to put it on Sunday, but Texas wouldn't go for it. So they never had to move it. Now, the question is, will they make a concession next year with either Oregon or Illinois? Now, if Ross is going to try, he's going to try to get Oregon at night. Ohio State, Oregon at night at the Shoe would be an amazing game. Are they going to not make that concession or say, we'll throw you Illinois? Well, Illinois is not going to be as good next year as they were this year. So it's not really going to be a great game. But, these things have consequences. Oregon, Ohio State next year, from a recruiting standpoint, would be bigger than Texas, Ohio State this year at noon, for sure. Now, on the recruiting side, as far as guys that are actually coming in, positions of need here for the Buckeyes still in this 9th-ranked class of 2026. You need another defensive end to join Kari Wilder. That's a huge goal. On the interior, you've got Damari Simeon, Jameer Perez out of Cleveland, and Cam Brickle out of Pennsylvania, then California, then Pennsylvania, now Florida at IMG. Not doing so hot at IMG. The 3-star Cam Brickell. Doesn't appear that transfer was the best idea for him. That his 4th transfer in high school. Obviously, IMG, ton of deep talent, but he's a senior and he's not starting, and that's not a great sign. 8 tackles on the year, though he did have a tackle in his most recent game. I think he got shut out on the stats the game before, and that's just not good, man. That's not good. With Brian Kelly's firing, longtime target Deuce Geralds, who had committed to LSU, potentially the thought was maybe the Buckeyes kick the tires on Deuce again, but Deuce won a lot of money, and if he goes elsewhere, he says he's not. He says he's committed to LSU, got nothing to do with Brian Kelly. And based on the stories that have come out from Brian Kelly, kind of makes you believe, like, yeah, he probably didn't talk to these recruits much either, because he's got, I think his center from 23 and 24 came out and said, I was the starting center for 2 years. The only thing this guy ever said to me was like, hey, how you doing? Which is just amazing when you think about Ryan Day's relationship with his players. Like, it just blows my mind. But I'm sure the Buckeyes will kick the tires on Deuce anyway, but he got paid a mint. And if it wasn't them, it was going to be Michigan paying him a ton of money. Anyway, another one that they should definitely kick the tires on and have had communication with is a cornerback that they were after pretty hard, a top 100 kid, Hayvon Finney, like a 6'4" corner out of California. Dude's a stud, and we'll see if they can get something rolling with that. I don't think it'll end up being Buckeyes, but there are some corners that are coming in to visit, 2026 guys, and we'll talk about them in a second. But let's talk defensive end. So Dre Quinn has been the only prospect on the board since he decommitted from Clemson. And Dre Quinn is a dude. He's a dude. He's ranked just outside the top 300, but that's a poor ranking, man. This kid's got it all. Tall, long, muscular. He's fast. And Texas was his second choice when he committed to Clemson. So now they're back in on him. Tennessee's in on him big time, and Ohio State. So those 3 going after Dre. And not close enough to make a prediction here. It started off with, all right, everybody's thinking Texas is the big time leader here, but he seems to really like Ohio State, and he'll be back. The only other option that people have been talking about is consistently bringing up the Luke Waffle flip, potential, and that's just absurd. By the way, a lot of people in the industry were talking about at this point in the cycle, we'd be seeing a ton of chaos from funny money and bad deals being thrown around, fake deals. Well, we're less than 2 months away here. We've not seen any of these popping yet. The only thing we've seen is guys coming open from the chaotic coaching carousel. And that's great. And the thing is that will continue as we see, other coaches leave their job to make way. And as they get hired up, we're going to see a lot of residual. And then those players become available 5 days after the new coach gets hired. That's the new rule. So they can't leave immediately after a coach leaves. They got to wait 5 days till the new coach gets hired to give that coach an opportunity to retain them on staff. But the Buckeyes have offered another defensive. Look, he's technically a defensive end prospect, but he's not a defensive end. He's going to be another interior guy, which is why I'm not really sure why they're going after him. But Jimmy Frisco Alisuleafo, out of Katy, Texas, he is a 3-star, but right on the borderline, almost a 4-star, out of Katy, Texas, who's committed to North Carolina. Now, he made the Polynesian Bowl, which is a nice honor. Obviously, it would be nice to get Bill Belichick back after he flipped Jacob Weatherspoon. I would like that. But then I remember we're Ohio State, and flipping someone from North Carolina is not anything that should get me jazzed ever. Production, pretty nice. As a junior, 70 tackles, 15 TFLs, 8 sacks. That's great for big-time high school football in Katy, Texas. And Buckeyes have offered him. Jimmy will be in town. Outside of North Carolina, other big offers he had, Oklahoma, Auburn. Despite the high production and looking like a grown man, the athletic traits are not hot. I mean, they're not. He is absolutely, 3-star athletic traits, which that's why I'm certain that this guy ends up as an inside player. The feet just are not quick enough to play defensive end at Ohio State level. It's just not. And, sometimes you got situations where an Ohio State coach will offer like a 3-star kid, and you look at the kid and it's like, oh, well, this is just a misevaluation. Like, this is awesome. They're going to get a great deal on this guy. And Isaiah West, for instance, is what I said the entire cycle last year. Like, this guy is an absolute dude. And I don't know, have any idea how he's the number 750th ranked player in the country, but it's wrong. It's just wrong. And sometimes you can just see it. But this guy, not that guy. This is more like we've missed, drop down the ladder, miss, drop down the ladder, miss, drop down the ladder. Nonetheless, they need a body. So if Jimmy Frisco wants to hop on board, there's room. There's room. But where they really need bodies is at corner. Need some big time assistance at corner. If Jermaine Matthews leaves, goes to the draft, IGB is gone. Next year, what do we got? Hey, man, I love Devin Sanchez and Aaron Scott. That sounds sweet. Bryce West at nickel, that's great. Jordan Woods, who came in with Devin Sanchez out of Georgia, a kid that was committed to Cincinnati, a Cincinnati flip, and for a reason, he is a multi-year project. He's huge, multi-year project. If ever he plays corner at this level, to be honest. Then you got stud freshman Jordan Thomas in this class. You need corners, man. And it was imperative to get some, multiple corners this year, preferably 3. There's 1, and the clock's running out. Now, courtesy of the disaster programs in the state of Florida, there are options now all of a sudden, as Billy Napier has blessed us with CJ Brona. This is a top 100 player out of Florida, Windermere, Florida. That's the Tiger Woods neighborhood. This is a privileged little guy, big guy, 6'2" corner, 175. Long, tall, monster traits, man, but speed, man. 10.3 100 meter, 20.87 200 meter. That's fast. Alpha Dog MVP at the Under Armour Orlando camp, which is a big time camp. Played safety and corner in high school against not very good Florida competition. We'll see, man. He's got a ways to go developmental wise, but traits monster. Now, the issue is Michigan's after him. His brother goes to Eastern Michigan, which he seems to like the Buckeyes, and he'll be in town on Saturday. Then you've got Danny Odom. You guys remember Danny committed to Nebraska. Buckeyes were after him. Danny was supposed to make it in, but he went to the Nebraska game last week, and it doesn't sound like he's going to come in this week. Seems like they were able to get him to shut it down. We'll see. And then we've got Jay Timmons. Now, Jay Timmons committed to Florida State, and we know no matter what that AD said, like Mike Norvell is getting fired at the end of the year. And clearly these recruits know that. They've got to, right? By the way, shout out Corbin Fordham, who flipped to Florida State from Ohio State only a week later to have Norvell lose his 3rd game. And stories come out that the players are making fun of him in the locker room after losing to Stanford. And he's probably getting fired. That was a boneheaded move, man. Big time. But Jay Timmons is a Florida State legacy like Corbin Fordham, and he's out of Pittsburgh. Kid out of Pittsburgh. He is Rivals number 2 cornerback in the entire class. Composite 164 over at 247. So opinions vary, but let's cut it in the middle. He's a top 100 player. That's great. 5'11", so he doesn't got the size CJ Brona has. 185, not quite as fast as CJ, but a little more polished on the football field already. And he will be in town as well. Now, between Timmons and CJ Brona, I think the Buckeyes end up getting one of these two. I think they end up getting one of these two. And whether they have to, stretch the rules, whatever they need to do to get one, I think they're going to get one because it's kind of imperative at this point. That's great. When I say stretch the rules, I'm talking like, they've been following rules that nobody else has been following that aren't, officially, the rules aren't even officially out, which Ross Bjork just reiterated again last week in an interview that we'll go over on our next show. There are no rules. Ohio State's following a lot of them, but technically they're not even published yet. And the ones that enforce the rules are understaffed with 4 full-time employees and are not enforcing those rules that don't exist, that haven't been published. And there we are. Now, that's it for the 2026 guys, but there are a ton of studs in 2027, including 4 offensive linemen from the state of Ohio who have all been offered by Ohio State. That is a very high number at this point in the cycle. You would expect that a couple more pop later on. So we'll probably end up looking at like 7 total dudes from Ohio that end up with Buckeye offers on the offensive line. And that is like, man, we're set. Like, that is beautiful. Kellen Weimer out of Liberty, Mason Wilt out of St. Clairsville. Davis Seaman just got offered out of Bishop Watterson. And Kellel Johnson, the stud out of Moeller. He's going to be potentially a 5-star tackle out of Cincinnati Moeller. All those dudes, the whole crew will be in town together, and that's great. They all seem very high on Ohio State. So Tyler Bowen has got a ready-made class, but not satisfied with that. He's going to make it a 5-pack as he's invited in and has coming to the game the number 1 overall player in the class, offensive tackle Kennedy Brown out of Houston. And the rich get richer, baby. Love it. Last year, James Laurinaitis went for, not last year, this class, James Laurinaitis, 2 Ohio linebackers in Sincere Johnson and CJ Sana. The year prior, you had an Ohio linebacker in Eli Lee, but then he went out of state, got some big dogs, and Riley Pettijohn out of Texas, TJ Alford out of Florida. This upcoming class in 2027, going to be a very national class. And we talked about Jason Witten's son, Cooper Witten, who is the number 1 linebacker in the class. He won't be in town, but he loves Ohio State. He was here in the summer, and there's a real shot that the Buckeyes have at him, particularly with the respect that Jason Witten has for Ohio State and James Laurinaitis. And Bobby's good friends with Bobby Carpenter. And it seems like there's a real possibility there. And what we know, obviously, about Cooper Witten, it's probably not going to be some big NIL play. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be like, what's the best fit for Cooper? And I feel comfortable with that right now. Then Caden Henderson, the number 2 linebacker in the country out of Florida, who just speaks incredibly high of James. He will also be in town, along with Roman Egbukwe, who's the number 5, and he might be the best overall. He's huge, 6'3", 220, out of Mount Carmel in Illinois, and he's awesome. And maybe my favorite one, Quentin Cipher, who's out of North Carolina. He's the number 8 linebacker in the country. This is one of those dudes who you look at a picture of his face, and if I showed you his film, then showed you his face, you'd say there's no way that athlete came out of that face. It did. It did. Quentin Cipher, remember the name. He's a dog. But all those linebackers will be in town. Like, James Laurinaitis has half the top 10 coming in, which is beautiful. He's going to land some dogs. And the turnaround in the linebacker room under James Laurinaitis has been just ridiculous. Hartline, of course, has some studs coming in as well. And Khalil Taylor, who is a top 10 wide receiver, was committed to Penn State, obviously decommitted. And Keyshawn Bowman visits again. He was in town for Texas. This is the number 5 wide receiver in the country. Total stud out of Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee's after him, but Oregon, the biggest threat for him outside of Ohio State. And then you got Blake Wong, probably not going to end up a Buckeye, but if he did, I would love it. This is an awesome story. So Blake Wong, undersized kid, comes to Ohio State camp over the summer, and he's unranked. Nobody knows who he is, earns himself an Ohio State offer from Brian Hartline. And because of that offer, he's now a top 300 kid out of California, but just by one service, because nobody else knows who he is. So that's a pretty cool story. And at tight end, our dude Jackson Dollar. This is Rome, who is a Juckeye, one of my guys over at Juck on Bucks. This is his nephew, and he's out of North Carolina. This kid, Rome was telling me about him when he was a no-name kid. Just my nephew's a tight end. I think he might get recruited. Okay, that's awesome, buddy. Yeah, kid gets a Florida State offer. Like, what, are you kidding me? Hey, Rome really knows what he's talking about. This dude's now the number 5 tight end in the country, and that's our guy. So we're really rooting for Jackson Dollar. He will be in. He actually got his offer from James Laurinaitis via Keenan Bailey. Wrong way. From Keenan Bailey via James Laurinaitis. James was down in North Carolina recruiting Quentin Cipher, and he stopped by to give Jackson Dollar his offer. But this is a sweet tight end now. We're talking a athletic freak, and not the biggest, stockiest yet, but he's got the frame that he can grow, and he's a supreme athlete. Like I said, I mean, he's a top 100 player in the country. And this will be Keenan's first time meeting him face to face. Now, Rome tells me this kid's got the kind of family that Ohio State's going to fall in love with, and he's that kind of kid. And if that's true, he's not right at the top of Ohio State's priority board at tight end right now. I think that might change if that's true. The best cornerback in the country, John Meredith out of Texas, will be in town. And I think the best safety in the country, though he's technically, I think, the number 5 safety, Jaquan Snell out of Waxahachie, Texas, will be in town. Waxahachie, of course, the Buckeyes have a relationship with Waxahachie. They pulled Calvin Simpson Hunt out of Waxahachie a little while back. So that is our recruiting news for the day. That is our show for the day here at Buckeye Huddle Prime Time with Chuck. I do appreciate you guys for joining me as always. Let me run through and see if you got anything to say here before we wrap it up. We do, matter of fact. Look at this. It's Rome. It's the guy I was just telling you about. Rome, thank you for the $4.99. Rome said, it's hard for us to get up here from Charlotte on Saturday for a noon game, and AA's hub is here. Thank God Jax has a bye. AA's hub is here. What? I don't know what he means by that, but that's the guy I was just telling you about. His nephew Jackson has a bye, so that's why they're going to be able to make it up. And ridiculous tight end. See, that's who I was telling you about. That's awesome. Richie says, the only man that can stop Ryan Day's dynasty is Ross Bjork. Chris says, I'm not sure the Nittany Lions actually exist. So what I understand is there is Mount Nittany and the mountain lions that roam around Mount Nittany, or what they call Nittany lions, but it's not like a special lion. It's just a normal mountain lion. That's what I always understood, what a Nittany lion was. I could be wrong. If there's any Penn Staters in the house, matter of fact, I'll just text Landon and ask him. He's like my first Penn State friend. Now, my son FaceTimed me from Penn State last night. My middle boy, Carm, has a girlfriend that lives on the Penn State campus and goes to Penn State. And he FaceTimes me with his Penn State girlfriend, and you guys would have loved it. First time I ever met this girl, the phone swings to her, and there is this gorgeous Italian girl with an Ohio State sweatshirt, and I was so proud. I was so proud. It was great. So my kid is going to be spending a lot of time in Penn State. Cookie, what's up, Cook? She doesn't need a heart attack every weekend. She's talking about the schedule. Obviously, we love the schedule around here. It's going to be awesome. Trust me. Those wins are going to feel so much better than wins over UCLA, Rutgers, and in a wounded Penn State. Tom says, Juck, it's the elephant approach, and I don't know what that means, Tom. Lisa, how good will our defense be next season? That's a good question. I think a lot of that's going to depend on, we don't know if Cade McDonald will be back. We don't know if potentially Kenyatta will be back. If Kenyatta's not back, and he has an opportunity to come back, he redshirted. If he comes back, I feel a whole heck of a lot better than if he doesn't, because, Bo Atkinson is not ever going to be a high-level starter at Ohio State. He does not have the traits for it. He's not anywhere on the level that Curry or Kenyatta are. And Logan George is not that kind of dude either. Like, you're looking at Zion Grady as the starter, and can Epi Satanile make that jump? I honestly think, like, in that situation, Kari Wilder is like playing defensive end as a true freshman. Now, Kari's awesome, and I think he can do it, but, the defensive line could take a serious hit. Of course, you got the portal. Portal's not good for defensive linemen, and boy, are they expensive. And we just saw them literally light $1 million on fire for Ethan Onyanwa. So I guess we'll hope it goes better than that. But it's a great question. Obviously, we got a ton of time to talk about that. Arvell will most certainly be gone, but I don't think anybody's worried about linebacker with what we got coming up the pipeline and what they've already shown us. So feel pretty good about that. Richie said it would have been nice to have Zahir Mathis and London Merritt. Zahir Mathis is tearing it up as a true freshman. Oh, American Airlines. He said AA as in American Airlines, as in I would have any idea that stood for American Airlines. Come on, Rome. AA to me is like we're going to a meeting. You know what I mean? Bye, Lisa. Emily likes Landon. Hold on. Apparently everybody knew American Airlines in the chat. All right, I'm the oddball. I apologize, Rome. It's not you. Lisa, if you're still there, I want to tell you something. So, Luke Fickell, I am so angry for Luke Fickell because this AD put out a statement last week. And in his statement, he essentially admitted that he has not invested any money at all into players. Now they're going to be investing money into players. And now Luke Fickell is going to be fighting without a hand behind his back. They thought they could just go out and hire the good coach and it would get them out of having to pay for players. Not the way it works in this era. And the best thing is what we saw against Ohio State and what we saw against Oregon is Luke Fickell's players, despite this horrible season, are still playing hard for him, which means I think it's still got a chance. They just need better players. They're just not that good. They don't have enough talent. So if they finally put some money into it, and Wisconsin has money, maybe we see a big time improvement. Maybe we do. Dave, Chuck, have you given your opinion on the better job, LSU or Penn State? Well, now to me, LSU is the better job than Penn State, but there's a big caveat there. Now, LSU in 2025 is not the same job it was in 2023. It's not even close. What are we looking at this year? Blaine Bradford in this class. Blaine Bradford. The dude's brother went to LSU. They couldn't keep him in state. LSU is a program that has been like Auburn in this century, but their highs are really high. They've won 3 national championships. Before that, they only have one in their history, 1950. LSU is a middling SEC program for years and years and years and years, decades and decades. And then Nick Saban showed him how, look, we just got to collect this talent, go here, get these Louisiana kids, keep them home. And that works for a stock roster that can elevate you up to national championship level. However, like Ohio, and I compared Ohio and Louisiana a lot, whereas you're the only show in town in a talent-rich state, what are we seeing in Ohio, man? We had a ready-made secondary this year. 2 top 100 players, and Jacob Weatherspoon's like a top 200, all of them gone. The geography means so much less, and because of that, I don't think LSU is it's not in my top 5. I just did my top 5 last week. LSU is no longer in it because LSU doesn't have the kind of money that a lot of their peers do in the SEC, and very few of them have the money that many of the programs have in the Big Ten. And that is the most important part in recruiting now, not geography anymore. It's money, point blank. Now, until further notice, Dave, if I see Penn State starting to really spend big time money, it's LSU for me. But to me, 100%, it's about recruiting and players, talent acquisition. That to me is like almost everything for the job. Do they invest in being great at football? Can I recruit? And is there fan passion? But if there's fan passion, that's a given. Like if there's money, there's fan passion. There are no programs that invest big without that crazy fan passion. You look at Texas A&M right now, they got it going on, man. basically ridiculous amounts of money in a talent-rich state, a fan base that is insane for the product. They've got it going on. If they win the national championship right now, my gosh. My gosh. Yeah, I disagree on Alabama, Dave. I don't know why. I don't know what makes you so high on them other than the national championship history. Piss on it. All right. That's it, guys. Dave, text me later. I'll talk to you guys. I appreciate you so much. Have a great one. Richie, I agree. Texas is number 1. Ohio State's number 2. Have a great day.